Welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and serve the community. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, you are welcome here. No matter whether you fret about the future or the past, you are welcome here. All of you is welcome here. It is good to be together this morning. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Universalist now stands. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. We have a visitor's form that can be found in the chat. Please click on it and fill out the form so that we can offer you a welcome beyond this worship service. As we gather this morning, we want to invite you to pop into the chat and offer a greeting. You can find this at the top or the bottom of the screen with an icon of a text bubble and the word chat. So please pop on over and offer a greeting. It could be a wave of hello or an I'm here, whatever you prefer. In any case, in any way that you want to join, welcome to worship at First Universalist. I invite you now to join singing with us hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth, though all the world goes chill, will keep you warm. Peace may walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
Once in an Al-Anon meeting, I heard a very wise woman relate how she had realized one day that she was endlessly praying for a better childhood. She understood in that moment that this was something God was very unlikely to give her. How much better to focus on building a better future. And yet the past is never gone. Much as we might wish it had been different, much as we might wish to forget it, or parts of it at least, the past shapes who we are, how we experience the present, and how we dream about the future. Moreover, who are we to know what the present might look like if the past had not been what it was? Every stupid thing I ever did, every crisis I ever faced was an opportunity to change and grow. And I'd like to think that I have, slowly and imperfectly for sure, but in ways I never would if I'd never had to face the consequences of my actions or rise to a difficult occasion. So when I think of that wise friend in Al-Anon, I try to focus my prayers not just on the future instead of the past, but on finding the serenity, the courage, and the wisdom to discover what I can change in me to make the future better. Come, let us worship together. As Reverend House lights the chalice at First Universalist, and as we do likewise in our homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please join me now in our affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. We are the heirs of all that the past has wrought, its art and its banality, accomplishments and failures, joys and pains. As people of faith, we aspire to bequeath to the future less banality, failure, and pain, and more art, accomplishment, and joy. We commit our church to this task. We endow it with our time and treasure. When gathered together in person, we pass the collection basket as a visible reminder of our commitment. Here on Zoom, we invite you to click the link you will find in the chat to give online to the First Universalist Church. You can also, of course, send a check in the physical mail. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Still somehow it's love's illusion. its crowds. I've looked at life that way, but now the friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all.
I invite you now into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place your hand over your heart to be able to listen from this heart-centered place. As we place stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. All are also invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat that we may hear from the community gathered here. I will do my best here. I'm trying to scroll through a screen, so if I miss any, I do apologize. Good morning, all. So grateful to be here. A joy to have beautiful live music today. A joy to have spent 5 days in the Adirondacks. They're scrolling by me. So Greg and I are celebrating our 20th vegan anniversary at the farm sanctuary. We have become vegan 20 years ago today. I'll try to go back and find that other one. Okay. Great music today. Thank you, Anne. Beautiful. From Marty Eggers. From Stephen to everyone so lovely. From Brock to everyone love it. John, Luke's and Carol, thanks Anne. Eileen Munson to everyone beautiful Anne. Joy to have beautiful live music in the sanctuary today. A joy that we found from John and Carol, a joy that we found a great home for the kitty we found, and a sorrow that I lost my beloved Aunt Peggy and godmother. Sorry. Joy to have spent 5 days in the Adirondacks from Marty with her sons and 2 of his 3 teens. From Kitty Forbush, a joy that she retired on Tuesday, scared but excited. From Kathy Scott, grateful to have my Kelly Scott, sorry, I know Kelly. Kelly Scott, grateful to have my trigger finger surgery over. From Johanna, families in Florida are suffering so deeply. From Melissa Parrish to everyone, joy. I was able to have lunch with Connie Volk this week at her beautiful new home. It was so wonderful to see you in person and talk to you and share a hug. From Eileen Fernandez to everyone, joy. My new great-granddaughter Giovanna is with us. Remembering Alaskan Senator UU Mike Gravel, who died this past week. Gravel was instrumental in the publication of the Pentagon Papers. From Hal Bauer, from the Genesee Valley, Hal Bauer and Gail Mosier, living on Springwater Farm, are happy to announce their children are, we can read them in the chat. From Marty Egger, so good to be with all of you this morning. From Julie Kleinhans, good morning all. From Rachel, good morning friends. Sarah Singal, good morning and happy 4th. Hal Bauer, thanks Anne for your great smile and music. Michael Scott, to everyone, welcome all. John Lukes, good morning and welcome back. Thank you, welcome back to me. Wonderful to see everyone this happy 4th of July. Love you all, happy 4th from Kitty Forbush. Carla Freeman, good morning. Ed and Newcomb, it's nice to see you all today. Eileen Fernandez, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. Good morning, lots of good mornings. From Bill Elwell, Becky and I are here. It's good to be with you. Lois Baum, happy to be Zooming together with you all this morning. Beth Ayers, hello friends, joining you from LA this morning, and we're at 7 a.m. First Universalist, Rochester, everyone, good morning all. Robert Remley, you are all looking good. Richard Reed, good morning everyone, happy 4th of July, good morning. Great music, wonderful, lots of greetings. And we drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. Today, we light the white candle to acknowledge that we are a community affected by the grief, loss, and fear of living through a pandemic. May this candle's flame hold our experiences around this horrific disease, and may its light be a beacon of hope and a reminder that we are not alone. I invite you now to join with me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. We will not enter our promised land if we strike the rock within. If we speak harshly to the rock within, we abandon ourselves to wandering endlessly in a wilderness bereft of life until we surrender. Until we surrender the doubting and faithless parts of ourselves and they turn to dust. Only then, when those parts have died and we learn to speak kindly to the rock within, only then will our water flow. And we will enter that promised land at last.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stories of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be destroyed. We are not wise. We are not often very kind. And much can never be redeemed, and still life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it. You notice it in the instant that love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of it, and don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. So just informally, before we start here, I want to say, this is my first time ever. There was a internet snafu and I couldn't print anything. So this is my first time ever doing the service by looking at a screen. And I also wanted to thank all of the kind people who tried to help me this morning. Michael and Emma and Dick Schroyer from afar, everyone tried to help me print. And I think it's going okay. So as most of you probably know, my partner, Michael, is an absolute plant fanatic. Our entire property has been transformed into perennial gardens. We literally have no lawn whatsoever. And hence we have no need to own a lawnmower, which I recommend. Our gardens are full of rare perennials that most of us, it's certainly not me, have ever heard of. But along with those rare gems, we do have some common things that everyone has probably heard of: peonies, daylilies, and bleeding heart. But even these common plants take on uncommon forms in our yard as Michael seeks out the rare and unusual varieties of even these common species. Gold leaf bleeding heart is a good example of this. It looks just like the common bleeding heart, except that instead of being the normal green color that most plants are, the leaves are a bright goldish green. They almost seem to glow. So we live in the city, and Michael has even colonized that little strip of grass between the sidewalk and the street, which I think you're not really supposed to do, but he did anyway. We've heard mixed messages about whether the city allows that or not, but a lot of people do it. And it is in this space right next to our driveway, that our stunning and huge gold leaf bleeding heart sits. Last spring, just as it was at the peak of its beauty, tragedy struck. It was garbage day. And we had put both our garbage toter and our recycling bin at the apron of our driveway that morning before we left for work. And when we came home, we were devastated to see that the garbage collectors had emptied our toter and then dropped it right on this stunningly beautiful bleeding heart, completely and utterly smashing it. There was nothing left but this flat pile of crushed flowers and leaves on the ground. So those of you that are plant lovers will understand how distressing this was. Of all years, this was at the height last year of the COVID isolation, and so our gardens were more important to us than ever. We were actively enjoying this plant on a daily basis. I would go out with my coffee every morning and look at it to see how many blooms it had on it. And we spent a lot of time admiring it. And then we came home to see that it had been just carelessly and callously crushed. So Michael called the city to complain. He was nice about it, but he did ask that the garbage collectors, please, could they take more care in the future? Well, this message was obviously relayed and was just as obviously resented, because the following week on garbage day, we came home to discover that our garbage toter had been emptied and then carried about 30 feet from where we had left it and then dumped right in the middle of our garden, crushing several more plants. And it just so happened that it was also in a spot where a lot happened to be blooming at that moment. We both try hard, we really do. We both try hard to think the best of people and to give people the benefit of the doubt whenever possible. But it was hard for us, or by the way, anyone else we told the story to accept that it just so happened that the week after we made a complaint, they just happened to empty our garbage toter and then just happened to carry it 30 feet and then just happened to dump it in the middle of our garden. And I will say it is still a bit hard for me to believe this. So after this event, we became hyper vigilant about our plants. We made sure to place our garbage toter in the very center of the driveway apron every week, at least 15 feet, at least a good 15 feet from any of the plants. And Michael bought a bunch of these high sturdy stakes to place around anything that we were worried about, anything that might be in bloom near the road, so that if the garbage collector came again and tried again to dump the toter on top of any of the plants that were in the median there, the garbage toter would bounce off the top of the stakes. And any week that we saw the garbage truck coming, we would make a point to smile and wave to the driver hoping to cultivate at least a little bit of goodwill. And that was the end of it. From then on, the garbage toter was emptied each week, and it was left neatly on the driveway apron. If we had experienced retaliation, the driver had apparently felt that now the score was settled. Well, it was settled everywhere except in my mind. There it was, there in my mind it was, alive and current and fresh every time I looked at the Bleeding Heart or every time I saw a City of Rochester garbage truck. It really came back to life one day about 6 or 7 weeks ago when I was taking my dog for a walk and I noticed that the Bleeding Heart was in bloom just at the peak again. It had survived the crushing from the year before and it was coming up anew. And for a moment, I was really happy and excited. It's back, I thought. It didn't die. But as my dog and I headed down the street, my mind went back to what happened last year. Those miserable people, that miserable so-and-so driver, who does he think he is anyway? How dare he deliberately destroy my plants? What is wrong with him anyway? He probably resents having to pick up other people's garbage. That's it. I bet that is it. He drives around the city looking for passive-aggressive ways to vent his frustration. Well, okay, don't be too excited about that Bleeding Heart. He'll crush it again. He's probably been waiting all winter to get back at us. He'll make sure to drop the toter right on it again. I'm sure of it. Or maybe worse. Maybe this year he'll rip out things around it. He'll rip plants out. He'll rip it out of the ground. Or maybe he'll spray Roundup on it. Yeah, that might be it. Well, maybe he's not that bad. Maybe he's just careless. But either way, don't get too excited. That plant is doomed. One way or another, that miserable so-and-so driving that garbage truck is going to ruin it. Probably just as it's blooming. Just like last year. And we'll feel just as sad as we did last year. Our poor plant. But there won't be anything we can do. What could anyone do? People like that garbage man are everywhere in the world, and they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about other people's problems. They don't care about other people's gardens. They don't care about anything. Our quality of life doesn't matter to them. We are just a bunch of plastic green toters to them. That's all we are. They don't appreciate beauty. Not only that, they probably enjoy causing misery for people along their routes. Why can't we live someplace better, someplace where people actually care? Anyone walking by this house at any moment could just rip up our plants. It's happened before, hasn't it? People have picked our flowers. Sometimes they don't even take them. They just throw them on the sidewalk for spite, just to be mean. That's how people can be, just to be destructive. And how can you prevent it? What can you do to stop it? What can anyone do to stop this? Anyone can get mad and anyone could just destroy our garden anytime they wanted to when we aren't home. And how could we stop them? How could we even prove that they did it? The police wouldn't care. Why should they? And on and on and on, my mind went from one negative thought to another thought. What is wrong with this city? What is wrong with the whole county? What is wrong with the state? What's wrong with this country while we're after it? What's wrong with the world? And as I walked along with my dog, I became so freshly aggrieved that I began having in my mind, and I think at times even speaking it out loud, saying what I would say, what I would like to say to that garbage man, or what I would like to say to that garbage man supervisor. What I would say to the garbage man and the garbage man supervisor when the inevitable happened, because it's going to. They're going to ruin my plan again. Well, I might as well have actually been on the phone at the very minute that was going on. So engrossed was I in what my own mind was experiencing. I was really living simultaneously in both the past and the future. A past where my plant had been destroyed and a future where it was destined to happen again. And my present moment, the present where the plant was flourishing and the sun was shining and my dog was enjoying himself, that moment was lost. It really kind of didn't even exist because I was living in the past and the present in my mind with the garbage man. It was replaced by anger and resentment, not only about what had already happened in reality, but what was happening again in my mind. So, how often has something like this happened to you? How much of yourself do you recognize in my story? When your focus and your attention are caught completely up in this sort of negative thought pattern, when negative events from the past merge with your fears for the future and create a misery-filled present. Chances are that, like me, you hardly even are aware a lot of times when this is happening. It's just another example of how the workings, and actually in this case, overworkings of our minds, are unquestioningly accepted as reality itself. And sadly, research has shown that we rarely, if ever, do this with positive thoughts or emotions. When, for example, think about this. When was the last time that you had such a fabulous experience at a restaurant, felt overwhelmingly satisfied, and then got completely lost in the joy of that experience a month later, to the point where you spent an hour reliving it as if it were happening in the present moment, where you could actually taste the food and experience the excellent service as if it were happening right now in the present moment, where you saw the inside of the restaurant so vividly, it was as if you were actually there, where you were literally ordering your food out loud as you walked the dog and then thanking the server for excellent service, where you were so engrossed in the joy that you had experienced in the past that you were completely lost in the present moment. Well, I don't know about you, and if you can say that that happens to you a lot, I'm envious. But I can honestly say I don't think that that has ever happened to me. I certainly have more than my share of happy memories, to be sure. But for some reason, they don't hook me in the same way that those negative ones do. They don't have the same power, for whatever reason, to completely overtake my experience of the present moment like it seems those negative moments do. I think that fear and an abiding sense of our own vulnerability fuel these thought patterns. We have a bad experience and it hurts us. We fear that it will happen again. The older we get, the more bad experiences we've had, and these bad experiences can make us wary and cynical. The world is a dangerous place. Other people are capable of doing great harm. You can never predict when bad things might happen, and you can never really be sure who to trust. And as we slowly accept this worldview, our minds begin to strategize ways that we can protect ourselves from these imagined evils. We become vigilant. We become wary. We begin to lose our faith in others, our faith in ourselves, and our faith in the world in general. It's as if somehow, by expecting and preparing for the worst ahead of time, we can protect our hearts and souls from the hurt that we are sure is coming our way. In my story, it was as if somehow getting preemptively angry or mad at the garbage man inoculated me from the potential hurt of, again, having my beautiful bleeding heart crushed. At least as much as I consciously could think about that, which I really didn't a lot. I confess, and I will confess, that as I've grown older, this type of thinking has become much more automatic. So automatic, in fact, that I rarely see it, let alone question what need this whole mindset might be attempting to meet for me. It seems that more and more often, the past merges with the future like this, and I recycle past hurts into new and fresh worries. We've all heard that old saying, those who forget the past are destined to repeat it. And of course, it is good to learn from the past, and it is good to try to avoid repeating misery if we can. But just remember, as I need to often remind myself, future problems are never solved by constant worry and repeated visits to past negative events. And when we engage in thought patterns like my bleeding heart stream of consciousness that I shared with you, we are really being robbed of the joy of the present moment. When I noticed my bleeding heart coming up this spring, I had about maybe 30 seconds of joy and then a good 45 minutes of misery. This seems to me like an extremely poor bargain to make with myself, doesn't it? And not only when we do this, do we deprive ourselves of the joy of living, of the joy of being in the present. We deprive ourselves of all that joy when the past merges with the future like this. But think about it this way. We also deny our faith when we do this, our faith in others, our faith in ourselves, our faith in goodness and beauty and justice. Unitarian and Universalists don't really talk about faith a whole lot. It's a word that conjures for many of us up these images of dogma and religiosity and anthropomorphic gods. But I assure you, ours is a tradition of faith, a very strong tradition of faith. Faith in the essential goodness of humanity, faith in the power of justice and equity and compassion, and I think most of all, perhaps, faith in possibility. Unitarian Universalism, more than any time that I can think of right now, our faith is needed. Our faith in the world is needed. And we are an optimistic faith, a faith that does have faith in goodness and in possibility. So when you're dwelling on past pain and reliving it like I did in my story, it is a denial of that faith. It's a selfish and reactionary way to move through the world, much like the way the fundamentalists and the white supremacists live, fearing change, dreading the future, looking out for number one, doubting our neighbors, and expecting calamity. Think about it. It is a turning inward, away from possibility. It is static and self-indulgent, and it's cynical and joyless. It isn't living, it's merely existing, constantly seeking to shore up and preserve what already exists, rather than expanding what could be and what definitely should be. When we are simply savoring the present moment and savoring the joy of that moment, we are open-minded, compassionate, hopeful, forgiving, and just. We are agents for beauty and kindness and transformation. We are fully human, fully faithful, and fully alive. It isn't an easy way to live. It goes against the nature of most of our minds. It requires awareness, it requires effort, and it definitely requires a sense of humor. But whenever we can manage it, at those moments, we are closest to our best and our most authentic selves. Think about it. This past garbage day, as I was in the midst of writing this, I decided to act in congruence with this message. The bleeding heart is about at the end, but it's still got a few blooms on it. So instead of putting the garbage toter in the middle of the driveway apron, I put it back in its usual spot, right next to the bleeding heart. Now, I can't say for sure if the garbage toter bounced off the stakes that are still in place because I wasn't there, but I'm guessing that it didn't, because when I came home from school, the empty toter was sitting exactly where I left it. I invite you now to join us in singing number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Peace has tried us. As we extinguish our chalice flame this morning, let us read together the words printed in the order of service and on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Though we cannot be seated next to one another, we are still connected in this community. As we come to a time to close our service, I want to invite you into an embodied practice of holding hands from a distance at the end of the service. If you are joining us by video, please change your view to gallery view rather than speaker view, and then reach your hands out to the edges of the screen. For folks here by phone, place a hand over your heart and bring to mind someone from this congregation whom you love. My friends, there is a power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but is not made by human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power, and we can trust that power with our lives. It will sustain us whenever we take a stand on the side of love, whenever we take a stand for peace and justice, whenever we take a risk. Trust in that power. We are together held by that power. And let the people of the church say amen. As we come to the time of closing our service, I invite you to follow the benediction with the words, "May I stay in the present moment." Please join us in typing these words into the chat together.